Well, greetings if you're joining us remotely. And today we'll finish up chapter 25. The section that we'll do is the very last one. It's about pricing, and it's almost all non-computational. So not a bad topic today whatsoever. Well, if we think about it, pricing is a very, very important topic, and here's why. It is how the company brings in money. It brings in sales revenue, and it can be very complicated because we have to think about, well, how much are customers willing to pay? How much does this product cost us? Are we going to charge everybody the same price? Or will we have some groups that pay less, like our special order customers we considered? And if we don't set our price right, might be too low, might be too high. What's too low, what's too high? Well, here's one thing. We have to set a price which is high enough so that we recover all of our costs. And that means all costs of the value chain, as we'll see. So R&D, product design, manufacturing, marketing, distribution, and customer service, both fixed and variable. If we don't, we're going to incur a net loss eventually. So it has to be high enough we recover all of our costs, but if it's too high, customers aren't going to buy from us. So we're always in that situation. Also, when it comes to customers, we have an adversarial arm's length relationship with them. So adversarial, well, that means customers would like to pay as little as possible for as much product as possible and high quality. But the company would like to, what did I say? Customers want to pay as high price as possible. Let me backtrack. I think I made it. Whoa. Well, customers want to pay as low a price as possible. Hope I said that. For as much product as possible and as high a quality as possible. On the other hand, the company would like to charge as high a price as possible and give as little product as possible and maybe reduce quality if that saves money too. So adversarial relationship is they somehow settle up on a price. Arm's length because they're not related parties. It's not as though this customer is a major stockholder of the company and has some vested interest in the company. So the customer is impartial. So right now, we're certainly familiar with prices going up. Unfortunately, inflation. One piece of good news is that the price per barrel of Brent crude has gone down. So hopefully that will eventually reduce gas prices some. It has a little bit. Also, in these times of inflation, there is hidden inflation from the consumer side. If we go to the store and buy a package of a product, oftentimes, what do we get inside? Yes. Exactly. Lower net weight. We get less product inside the package. So unfortunately, we're paying a higher price for the package, but getting less inside the package oftentimes. So that's a hidden form of inflation.
I was going to say, did you see the one about Krispy Kreme?
No.
Where they said that they're going to be able to sell a box for the same price as a gallon of gas.
Oh, yes. Yes. Krispy Kreme will sell a box of donuts for the price of gas. That's right. Promotional item. Krispy Kreme, get them while they're hot. You know, if they get cold, they're just like any other greasy donut. Yeah. You know, covered in really sweet glaze. Not so good. Yeah, Krispy Kreme. Now, they used to be on the south side, South Florida. Now they're on the north side, North Florida. Yeah, they moved. I don't go there. I've never been to this Krispy Kreme. I haven't been to a Krispy Kreme, in fact, in years. Not a big donut fan. So this concept of pricing, let me just make sure that I have this on full screen. So if you're here in class, well, again, like I said, price drives everything here on the income statement. It really starts off the income statement because it's the very first line item. Sales revenue. Price reflected in that because it's price times quantity. So if we have a company where sales revenue is 900,000, to make money, to make revenue, we have to spend money. So we have to incur expenses. Let's assume there's 700,000 in total. So eventually we get down to the bottom line of the income statement. There go the lights. And we have net income. I'm assuming 200,000 here. But again, price really drives everything on there. Price and quantity. In fact, that does determine a lot of expenses. Variable expenses needed. Also, net income. You've heard the term, the company's in the black, meaning it's earning net income. On the other hand, if the company's in the red, that means incurring a net loss. So if we have a bottom line figure which is negative, well, it might be shown with a minus sign in front of it. In fact, on Excel, we can have that as an option. Or on Excel, we can have an option for a negative figure as being in parentheses. Or we can have an option on Excel for having negative figures in red. Showing companies in the red instead of in the black. Anybody know where in the red came from? And in the black came from? Okay. Well, with old-fashioned adding machines, they had a ribbon impregnated with ink that printed on a big roll of paper, kind of like a register tape. So this ribbon appeared to be striped, and typewriter ribbons mainly were two, if you've ever seen a typewriter ribbon. But on there, you would have, not very well, you would have a top part which was black and a bottom part which was red. So for positive figures, the keys of that adding machine would strike the upper section, which was black, positive. For negative figures, the keys would strike the lower section, red, negative. So that's where it comes from. And where's the name Black Friday come from? Why is it called Black Friday? I know.
I assume that it's, something like what we were just talking about, the red, so everyone at Friday.
Right. Yep, Black Friday. With brick and mortar retailers, traditionally very thin profit margins.
Kind of weird that it's right after Thanksgiving, or where you're at in the next day. Oh, we need this, we need that.
Oh, yeah.
People.
Let's go back to our consumer spend.
I got our schedule was the next day. Thanksgiving.
Yeah, kick off that Christmas shopping season. And it's called Black Friday because that's when a lot of retailers would finally earn profit for the year. That surge of Christmas shopping, since they had such thin profit margins. Of course, today, well, Black Friday is not such a big thing. We have Cyber Monday. Also, Black Friday, that was a traditional time for people to get up early after Thanksgiving and go out shopping. So going out shopping, after bargains, some of which were not such great bargains. but a big tradition in crowning stores. Unfortunately, one reason Black Friday is not as popular anymore is because there were a lot of bad things that happened, including here in Lakeland a number of years ago, before I moved over here, at the Walmart in South Florida, there was a customer who was trampled to death. Now, so at the appointed time, like 6 a.m., Walmart unveiled, I remember they were back then DVD players. So here was this bargain, or supposed bargain, on DVD players. So here was a big pile of DVD players, and the clerks took the cover off at 6 a.m. or whatever it was. The crowd surged forward for this bargain, and this customer fell. Nobody helped her up. They just trampled right on over her. So there in South Florida. So every time I go in that store, I think about that. Yeah, there have been a number of deaths on Black Friday. About 10 years ago, I was in Phoenix visiting friends, and there was a guy who was hurt. No, he was actually killed. As crowd surged in the doors. It was in Glendale, I think, just northwest Phoenix. Yeah, the funny thing was that we had driven past there a couple of nights before, and we sort of thought, oh, we could go to Walmart for Black Friday. There was something someone was wanting. That's a good thing we did, because that was a very, very Walmart. Ugh. I remember near that there was a Best Buy. And what do people do outside Best Buy and some other big box stores for Black Friday? And camp outside. And there were people camping. Yeah. Remember Best Buy in North Lakeland, people camping. If they're truly getting a bargain, who knows? Is that camping as popular these days as it used to be?
I don't think they do that almost the same. I think because you can also get the online deals that kind of makes it less like.
Yeah. Online deals.
So like the store.
Yeah.
The same deal is a much safer place.
A much safer place, you betcha. Yeah. And again, if you truly are getting a deal, sometimes you are, I guess.
I mean, I'm just got to send you online, so.
Yeah. Like, why bother going out store and risking it?
I mean, unless you really have been slacking on your exercise.
Yeah. True.
You need to-
No need to camp anymore.
For the experience, but
Maybe for the experience. Yeah.
a true American Black Friday experience.
Yeah. You know, I'm one of the few people who has never been camping.
I don't like any forest mountain.
No, I haven't. I told that to a friend of mine a while back. And no, that's not the real reason, but she said, of course you haven't been camping, my dear. You're Jewish. Well, no, that's not the real reason. That she was trying to imply, you know, just not something I would do. Well, definitely I wouldn't camp out front Best Buy, even though Jews are supposed to be cheap. I'm not going to camp for such a supposed bargain. No thanks. I'm sorry, Danson. Oh, did you have your hand up a moment ago?
I can't remember what it was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Something about the camping.
Probably. I don't know.
You haven't been camping out front of Best Buy, I take it.
No.
Okay.
I know people that used to back in the day, like back when Xbox 360 was PlayStation, people that do that sort of games. So
PlayStation, other game stuff. Yep.
nowadays, I don't think they do that.
Yeah,
Amazon kind of took over everything.
that's true. Amazon kind of took over everything. You can get it online. I'd rather spend Thanksgiving peacefully instead of camping out in front of Best Buy. Yeah, most people I think would, but maybe a few people miss it. I don't know. A few diehards. All right, well, let me go ahead and share my screen here. You're online. And we'll take a look here at the notes. So here with pricing, a little introduction. Well, first of all, as we mentioned, to be profitable in the long run, a company must have a price for its product, which will allow total revenue over the life of the product to be greater than its total outlay and total opportunity cost for that product. The outlay cost, that's cash expended directly out of pocket. That's pretty easy to identify. Opportunity costs are a lot harder to identify. Often they're more subjective. Often a company just plain old misses them. But if we don't cover them, well, we may not earn a profit in the long run. But of course, the price that company can set is affected by the dynamics of the economic marketplace, influenced by customers and competitors. Customers, they want as big a discount as possible. They want as low a price as possible, as we know, the best deal. So customers often are very, very price sensitive, just like those camping outside of Best Buy. And if there's competition in the marketplace, what does that tend to do to the price? Decrease it, drives it down. Sometimes that price the company can charge is not as great as it hoped. Well, here in this chapter, we'll consider all costs of the value chain for a particular product. All these costs must be covered by revenue in the long run in order for the company to be profitable. So we note that value chain, as we've seen before, is divided into pre-production or upstream costs. That means R&D and product design. And as production or manufacturing costs in it, the old familiar direct materials, direct labor, and overhead. And post-production or downstream costs, marketing, distribution, and customer service. So we covered that earlier in the course. But we have to cover all those costs with the price in the long run, both the variable costs and the fixed costs of the value chain. If we don't, no, not going to earn a profit once again. Then B. So in the long run, all value chain costs must be recovered through revenue. Therefore, the average long run price of that product, again, must be greater than this value chain. It has to be greater than the product's full cost in order for the company to be profitable. By the way, that full cost simply means all those value chain costs, again, both fixed and variable, per unit. Price has to be greater than the product's full cost. Too many companies, in looking at pricing, just focus on manufacturing costs, but they're missing out on other costs they've got to incur to sell that product. And again, while stirring a net loss. So that's why I say that generally the average long run price covers the product's full cost plus a normal profit, which covers the opportunity cost of capital investment. Well, and see, there are two different approaches to setting a long run price. I'd like for us to cover both. They're easy. We have cost-based or cost-plus pricing and market-based pricing. So let's see what cost-based pricing is first. It involves adding a markup to the cost base for the product. So that cost base, usually the product's full cost. which again is the sum of all upstream manufacturing and downstream costs per unit. And the markup will be subjectively set. It involves such decisions, the company's target return on investment. So if we're using, let me bring you back live if you're online. So if we're using cost-based pricing, which by the way, when a lot of people go into business, they think, well, I control up all my costs and add some markup to that, and that's the price I'm going to charge. And then they forget sometimes that customers will pay it, but that's a different story. But let me look at the mechanics involved in cost-based pricing first. Really easy. Here's our cost base. Let's say our product, whatever it is, has a full cost of $100 a unit. This company decided, okay, I'd like to earn 25% markup. Again, that's subjective. So we're going to add to that cost base 25%, 0.25, multiply that by $100. We'll add an extra 25 onto that. That means that we bring up this price to $125. So very subjective. And as you see there in the next sentence on the handout, as we come back to it, subjectively set. It's internally driven. So cost-based pricing is internally driven. In saying it, this person's not thinking about the outside or how much customers are going to pay. That's why I sometimes get shocked. A lot of small business owners do. Well, it tends to lead to a price which is simple to compute, recovers all costs, is easy to justify, and is stable. Problem is, however, it is not responsive to market forces. So a lot of people, let's pick on the restaurant industry, which by the way has a very high failure rate for independent restaurants. So mom and pop, they open up the restaurant, and so they think about their cost per unit. That may or may not be very accurate, but they think about that, they have a markup. And they think, once again, we open our doors and customers will come, kind of like Field of Dreams. Well, mom and pop soon discover that the restaurant down the street is charging less. Where customers go, they go down the street. Very price sensitive. So if you're in a situation of competition like that, you can't be such a price setter. You don't have enough market power, enough clout to do so. So let's think about where cost-based pricing could be used. It's often more appropriate for monopolies. So there's one company providing the good or service. Oligopolies, just a few companies. They could be price leaders. Or regulated industries where the market is somewhat restricted. For example, in banking, that's regulated. And over the years, there's been a lot of consolidation in banking. So small independent banks, they were bought by bigger banks. And so the bigger banks could charge customers more, just like charging for all kinds of services, especially if you're a low balance customer, not paying much interest on deposits, etc. So they could be, shall we say, price setters. And also companies which make specialized made-to-order products often use cost-based pricing because there's no established market price for their products, so they can get away with it basically. So if you want something custom made, you've automatically restricted competition there of providers. You'll have to sell one provider and they'll make it for you, but they'll charge you more than if you get something mass produced. Well, number two, management compensation is often contingent upon achieving a target return on investment. Thus, companies want to set prices which will enable them to meet the target return on investment, so they'll receive their bonuses. This is why many companies base their cost plus price calculations on target return on investment. So that markup, how much do I wish to earn? I'm usually thinking about target return on investment then, which we want to be as high as possible, of course. But now let's think about the opposite approach to pricing, and that's market-based pricing, sometimes called target pricing. It's based on the market force of competitors and customers. It implies that the price charged can be no higher than that which customers are willing to pay. Just like mom and pop in the restaurant, they can't charge more than customers are willing to pay, because again, those customers are going to go right down the street. By the way, of small independent restaurants here in Florida, well, there's a very high failure rate nationwide, but here in Florida, really high. Less than 25% of those are still around after 3 years. After 5 years, about 10%. So it's brutal. Well, the price which customers are willing to pay is called the target price. So we've got to determine that. And then we have to get our cost down low enough so that we make a profit. So how much profit do we want? That's the target profit margin. We'll subtract that to yield the target cost of the product. And the target cost may be lower than the company's current full product cost. So that full product cost will have to be reduced by improving the company's products and processes through value engineering. We'll see a little bit more about that in just a bit. But basically, that's where we consider all the activities the company is engaged in. And we think lean. We think, how can we reduce these and save money? So we'll see that we'll get rid of non-value add activities, those that add no value in the customer's eyes or any place else. And we'll keep or maybe even increase value add activities, those that do add value to the customer's eyes. More about that in just a bit. Well, number two, market-based pricing is appropriate for competitive industries. And one industry that is really, really close to pure competition, excuse me, agriculture. So agricultural commodities like bushels of wheat, bushels of soybeans, bushels of corn. So ring on here. For example, producers of fungible goods, such as agricultural commodities, must take the market price as given. So, has anybody seen the term fungible? Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Where'd you see it?
I know, that is now sad, but they are non-fungible tokens.
Non-fungible tokens, yeah.
Yeah, I have an idea of what it is.
Fungible, you might see it in economics, or you might see it in business law. And it means that one unit substitutes perfectly for another unit. So 1 ounce of gold substitutes perfectly for another ounce of gold. 1 ounce of silver substitutes perfectly for another ounce of silver. 1 bushel of wheat substitutes perfectly for another bushel of wheat, etc. So agricultural commodities, mainly they're fungible goods. And the market price is set on so-called boards of trade, and most famous one being the Chicago Board of Trade. So that is where all these things are traded, not necessarily physically bringing it to Chicago, but well, it serves as the clearinghouse. So growing up near Chicago, they're in the Midwest where there are lots of agricultural commodities. Remember as a child getting ready for school on cold winter mornings and dreading going outside. It really does hit you when you go out. But hearing on the TV or radio, the farm reports, as they call them. Well, mainly they consist of maybe a weather report and how that's affecting fields, but they mainly consist of the current prices, like for a bushel of wheat, bushel of soybeans, gallon of whole milk. Also, another agricultural commodity, pork bellies. Yeah, pork bellies are treated, and they were a fungible good. So it actually is the belly of the hog, and it's important. The main product coming from it, does anybody know? Bacon. So that comes to the pork belly. In some cuisines, pork bellies are cooked. Several years back, I went to a conference by Pearson, our publisher, in Charleston, South Carolina. And they're in the so-called Low Country. Pork belly is actually a kind of a delicacy. So they had pork belly for us to try at the reception. It was like adding meat on toothpicks. Yuck. I tried it. I don't exactly like fatty pork. Well, maybe some people do. Yeah. I've had people say to me, oh, you're Jewish. You eat pork? Well, yeah, I don't keep kosher. But if someone were keeping kosher, that's when they wouldn't eat. In fact, they wouldn't eat any food unless it were kosher. But a lot of foods that we have in grocery stores, not meat products for the most part, but a lot of products are actually kosher. Yes. Gator nuggets. Gator nuggets. Yes, I did one time. I remember I was at another conference, FICPA conference in Fort Lauderdale at Port Everglades there. So just north of Port Everglades, I was staying at the Marriott or Renaissance Hotel there. And reception, they had gator nuggets. Yeah, gator tail. And I tried one and you know, it wasn't bad. It tastes like the proverbial chicken. So I thought, oh, this isn't so bad. But then I just couldn't make myself take another bite. Did you try them?
I have, but it's elastic.
Yeah, it was elastic. I think that kind of turned me off the texture. Yeah, that got me thinking about why I was eating. Yeah. Ooh. So no, I don't think I'll try it again. Been there, done that. Maybe not the least of which, well, University of Florida Gators. I'm a Gator. Ooh, that doesn't sound very nice. Then eating gator tail, does it? Yeah. That's definitely one of the foods. Been there, done that. No. No, it wasn't green. A lot of people think it's going to be green. A lot of people think frog legs will be green, but both meats are very white, you know. Frog legs I actually like. Gator tail, I just couldn't. No. Frog legs kind of taste like chicken too, to tell you the truth. So anybody tried frog legs? No one? Do you want to? No. Okay. But they're actually pretty good if you ever try. So fungible goods like agricultural commodities. Take that market price as given. Has anybody ever heard a farm report where agricultural commodities are being priced out by the announcer? Well, anyway, you won't be very interested in them unless you're a farmer. Farmers are very interested because they're price takers. They're in this very competitive environment. They want to know how much they can charge. And they have to be a price taker, have to take that price as given. It's another reason why some farmers have tried to produce something that's not fungible, like organic products. So try and charge a higher price and get out of this situation of almost pure competition in something that has less competition in it. So charging a higher price once again. And if we're buying something organic, what does that really mean? Anybody know? Yes.
How hard to explain, but like, it doesn't go through, like the same, it isn't planted in the same soil and fertile, like the fields never have fertilizer used. Special technique for prepare the field 6 months ahead of time. Or
Yeah.
then they plant next season, so on.
Right. Yeah, that can be one definition of an organic food. For example, they don't use artificial fertilizer, maybe, but there's no federal standard for what's organic. So we really don't know what we're getting. Another definition is no pesticide. Well, that may or may not be true. Excuse me. Yeah, so there's no standard definition, no federal standard. So sometimes we might be getting something and just paying a higher price. We're not sure.
Add that, like, a lot of people don't know when you get like vegetables in the store, even though it's been washed or it's, that's stuff that they use, they use food safety.
Okay.
So it's like you can eat it, not with water, you're almost better out. It's already happened.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of agricultural commodities in the store have been rinsed in food safe bleach, and yeah, they're actually okay to eat out of the package, like grapes. And sometimes you're better off just eating it straight out of the package. Actually wash away a lot of nutrients. And if you wash it in advance of eating it, that can make it go bad sooner too. Yeah. Yeah, so a lot of organic products, again, they're classified as organic subjectively, but no artificial fertilizer. So instead of being grown in artificial fertilizer, they are grown in what? In cow manure, correct. Or chicken manure, or hog manure. Now, by the way, usually in the fall, as farmers are fertilizing their fields up north, they will take their combine, load it up with manure, go out to the field, and the combine has a special process, many combines do, where they chop that manure up and it's spread in the field. And it smells to high heaven. here in Florida, we don't encounter a lot of hog farms. Has anyone ever smelled a hog farm up north? No. Well, you'll know which way the wind's blowing. Yeah. Also, there are a lot of flies. You know what? They've just been on too. Gross. So, reading on, well, producers of fungible goods, they're price takers. They use cost data to decide which commodities to produce and for cost control. So the full product cost is not greater than the market price. If full product cost is greater than the market price, they've just incurred net loss. And if they incur enough net losses, they'll go out of business, just like a lot of small farms have over the years. But again, some of them became specialized farmers, like an organic farm. So then it sounds endearing, you know, the such and such family farm producing organic apples for you or whatever it may be. Now, number 3, the term cost incurrence. That's when resources are consumed. Just like manufacturing something, we consume direct materials. Well, traditionally managerial accounting is focused on cost incurrence. And traditional methods of cost control, like variance analysis, where we compare actual cost to budget costs and look at the difference or variance, focus on controlling costs as of or after they're consumed. And locked in or designed in costs have not yet been incurred, but will be incurred due to past decisions. Often the majority of costs are locked in by the design stage. So as we talked before about that 1959 Cadillac with over 500 individual parts in its rear grill made of real chrome. A lot of costs there, both in terms of direct materials and in assembly costs. So back in 1958, when the design of that rear grill was finalized, Cadillac's engineers designed in the high cost rear grill because they locked in the specifications for producing that rear grill. Well, value engineering attempts to control costs before they're locked in within the constraints of satisfying customer needs. So today, as we know that rear grill, one piece of injectable plastic with some mylar over to make it look like chrome. Do most customers care? Not in the slightest. So to most customers, that very elaborate rear grill back in 1959 was a non-value added cost, except to a car buff, of course. So that's why Cadillac eventually got rid of it. So with value engineering, we're thinking about how can we be lean? That's one way to be lean. Only one piece of the rear grill, so much lower assembly costs and much lower direct materials costs too. It's plastic. That was value engineering at work. And traditional cost accounting has not recognized the opportunity for this sort of ex-ante cost control or before the time period takes place, before production in this case, but instead is focused on ex post or after the time period. So after production, comparison of costs actually incurred with budget costs, looking at the difference or variance. Well, both kinds of cost control are important. However, in many cases, there's a greater potential for cost reduction in the design stage because, excuse me, a large proportion of the costs are locked in at the design stage. And design has historically received less cost-cutting attention than has manufacturing. So it's a shift in thinking. Don't think about things ex post or after the fact. Think on an ex ante basis, a proactive basis, if you will. Design in less costs. Well, number 4, value engineering can focus on each type of cost. So focus on value add and non-value add costs. Again, we want to get non-value add costs and the activities which drive them out. They're not doing us any good. Value add activities and the costs attached to them, value add costs, might even wish to increase them. Just like in cars, instead of spending a lot of money on a radiator grill, non-value add cost, a value add activity, and therefore value add cost, would be a great display in a car. So great display for the driver and passengers to see. That is definitely value add. That sells the car. I don't think any, or I should say very few, customers are going to walk around the front of the car and tap on the grill to see, oh, it's real chrome, or no, it's only plastic. Actually, the plastic's better here in Florida. In which season, especially? Love bug. Yeah. For chrome, love bugs, or the remains, I should say, eat into chrome. They will pit it. And I have there last sentence number 4. Note that reducing the quantity of the cost driver can be a valid way of reducing costs. Again, just like reducing the number of parts in the radiator grill. Definitely reduced that cost driver of number of parts and is now much cheaper. Well, number 5. To achieve target cost, many Japanese companies use Kaizen, a process of continuous improvement. And Toyota has been a leader in that. So how can we make improvements little by little? And our assembly line workers usually know a lot of improvements can be made. They're there on the front lines. So using Kaizen, a process of continuous improvement, how can we improve? Thinking about that all the time. And much of the cost reduction occurs gradually via many small improvements. Also, since direct materials is often a significant cost, many manufacturers work closely with their suppliers to achieve target direct materials costs. Said before, the Toyota has sent its own engineers to help suppliers produce more efficiently. And of course, most of the cost savings, or much I should say, is passed directly back to Toyota. Just as we've discussed again before, the big Toyota plant near my hometown, well, when it was going in, Toyota identified a small mom and pop seat manufacturer across state line in Illinois that had started out producing car seats in the garage. So Toyota said, well, mom and pop, we will send our own engineers over and see what you're doing. And if we like it, we'll help you build up your business. So Toyota did like what they saw and they said, okay, mom and pop, we'll help you build up your own factory so that you can produce car and truck seats for us. And you'll have to move across state line to Indiana, which mom and pop did. I'm sure they gladly did because Indiana has far lower taxes. That's why a lot of people have moved over there from Illinois and to Wisconsin from Illinois. Well, mom and pop made the move. They became Hoosiers and their factory today is quite large. I think they've sold it in the interim and retired, probably here to Florida. But yeah, that's a Toyota success story. Number 6, we talked about value engineering a bit. Whoops. But value engineering to achieve target costs, again, thinking lean, how can we reduce costs? It also requires cooperation across different business functions. For example, marketing to decide how much customers are willing to pay and what product features can be deleted without losing market share. And those are non-value added costs. So reduce those non-value added costs by eliminating the non-value added activities attached to them. And also what features should be added to increase perceived value in that customer's eyes. Also known as value added costs. So we may actually increase value added activities, thereby increasing the value added costs attached to them, just like that nice upgraded display inside the car. The driver and passengers love it. It looks high tech, easy to see everything, a great backup camera, things like that. That sells cars. Again, that radiator grill just doesn't. Also across engineering and manufacturing. So the design for manufacturability, they can tell us about that. Can we manufacture this product? Okay. And across cost accounting, the estimated changes in cost from proposed changes. And that takes care of chapter 25. That was about pricing there. So any questions? I said pricing wasn't bad. Good. So that's what I've got for you today. Good, I've got 35 minutes. I have to go over to the Pole Cart Museum. It's over there tonight. And by the way, Florida Southern owns that museum and is affiliated with MoMA in New York, Museum of Modern Art. But over there tonight, President Kerr is going to have a dinner for those holding endowed professorships, and I do. So I'm off to dinner and a free one. It'll be good because the president is sponsoring it. Okay. So I've got 35 minutes. I've got plenty of time to scoot over there. All right. Have a good one. See you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.